thank you all for joining our best practices in last mile logistics discussion at the first ever Logistics and Tech Summit. Guys like me who are journalists love first, only, and new. And this is first, it's only, and it's new. So I love it. I'm a journalist with both ZDNet and VentureBeat, and based in Silicon Valley. I'll be pitching the questions today for our distinguished subject matter experts. This is all about the API technology behind theory becoming reality in the supply chain. So that's what this is about. Gentlemen, we have a mere 20 minutes. Let's put them all to good use. We have Aaron Marcus from Kroger, Tom Sweigart from iFIT, and Vishal Kapoor from Shipt. And you've been introduced. Let's go right into the questions here. Team HyperTrack was at Home Delivery World recently. The trade show focused on consumer deliveries. Other logistics events were happening there also. Conspicuous by their absence were Amazon and the major on-demand apps like Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, etc. They were the early movers in the on-demand and gig workforce, yet they seem to hold their tech close to their chests. Are they the competitors for you? Vishal, you want to start off?
Sure, Chris. It's great to be here. I just wanted to start by saying thanks to Kashyap, Gaurav, and the entire HyperTrack team for organizing. This is a fantastic summit, and I wish you the best as it goes on. So back to the question, Chris. I before working at Shipt, before coming here, I was at a company called Lyft, which is another rideshare provider, which is in the North America. It is a big competitor to Uber. It is considered as the second biggest rideshare provider compared to Uber. So having worked firsthand into being on the inside of these companies, I absolutely think that these are a threat. Using Kashyap's analogy, the dinosaurs and then the new entrants which are here. I think the biggest advantage that these companies have is exactly as Kashyap was mentioning in the opening introduction, is that they have been around for many years, and now they have that competitive advantage of data and having that moat of data. They have built a lot of in-house technology, which is extremely specialized to be able to run these type of last mile delivery, these type of logistics functions. A simple example is Uber, for example, has its own version of Maps implemented, right? So they used to use Google Maps, and a few years ago they decided to bring the maps in-house. It is absolutely a non-trivial exercise for any company, even with billions of dollars of funding, to get that kind of mapping and routing right, with down to GPS accuracy and things like that. So they are starting here. And the segments that they're mostly focused on, they're actually going after the medium to the small, the long tail of providers. And they are actually starting with things like, restaurant deliveries, Uber Eats, or DoorDash does, deliveries, drive, etc. And now they're starting to move into more and more generalized delivery segments. Shipt, for example, is a company that started with a use case of shopping and delivering. So, you shop and deliver orders. So a customer can place an order for a grocery delivery where, you may have kids, for example, and you don't have time, or you don't want to spend time in going and doing chores, for example. So you could go to the Shipt app and request a grocery delivery. So there's absolutely the technology that is inside. Speaking firsthand, mapping is one technology, extremely difficult for any company to build, which is the reason why, probably a handful of companies in the world got it right to begin with, right? Think about things like dispatch. When you're trying to match a order with somebody especially trying to do this on a on-demand economy, and on top of that, especially trying to do this on a flexible workforce, where the workforce is not constant and it's an elastic workforce. You're constantly trying to figure out, an incoming unit of demand. How do you map it to an available, but maybe not an active unit of supply? How do you activate supply? How do you manage supply, when coming into this scenario? So there is things like dispatch. There's things like surge pricing. For example, Uber brought that into the forefront. There are many, many complex technologies like this, which these companies are now kind of getting into, and sort of like getting into the industry like that. So it's absolutely a threat.
Tom, what's your perspective?
It wouldn't start right if I wasn't on mute. Thank you, Kashyap and Gaurav and HyperTrack for giving me this opportunity. Coming from a big and bulky perspective, is Amazon and their technologies a competitor? Unfortunately, yes, and a partner. So it's a divided love-hate relationship. So Amazon is a trusted partner of ours, a fantastic retailer that sells our high-end treadmills, ellipticals, and whatnot. At the same time, I lose sales on direct to customer because of Amazon. So we get the speed to consumer, we get the visibility, we get the tracking, all of what Kapoor is talking about that Amazon is a specialist at. And so when a delivery goes more than 2-3 days over the ETA, the first thing a customer says to me, well, let me cancel my order. I can buy it quicker on Amazon. So absolutely, Amazon and their technology is a competitor, but also a valued partner at the same time. So
very good. You got to walk that thin line, don't you?
Absolutely,
Aaron,
every day.
Yeah, Aaron, do you have a take on that?
Let's move on, because this is related to the expertise of the other people on the panel. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. E-commerce deliveries grew spectacularly after the pandemic started in March 2020. Although this year we saw a consolidation in demand and an overall market correction. On the other hand, there's a growing pool of gig workers, along with growing retailer investments in gig delivery platforms. From your perspective, is there an imbalance now and in the next year between consumer demand and workforce supply in the last mile space? Tom, you want to take that?
Thank you again for the prompts. Yes, there is. So in the big and bulky, we just don't have enough local delivery companies to be able to handle the volume that's being pushed there. So here at iFIT, parent company of NordicTrack and Proform, we're fighting with Home Goods, we're fighting with Best Buy, we're fighting with Home Depot just to get capacity for teams to deliver our freight. And then you add the added expertise of an assembly, so you're not just dealing with just average delivery drivers anymore. Now you're asking delivery drivers to have a technical aptitude, and not just a technical aptitude, but the soft skills needed to speak to my customers. So you buy a treadmill from me, you never see anyone at iFIT, you never see anyone at NordicTrack. You may have to deal with our customer service, and I'm sorry for that. But at the end of the day, it's the delivery companies that fully represent us. So how are those delivery companies presented? What are they wearing? What do they say to our customers? And unfortunately, there's just not enough individuals currently in the delivery industry to adequately service every zip code in the United States. And that's where we are, unfortunately. You add that with AB5 in California and the potential of the White House rolling that out kind of on a national basis. And then all of a sudden you're losing your independent contractors, which in the home delivery space is who we really rely on. We're not relying on asset drivers. We're relying on those independent contractors growing their families, growing their businesses. And the hit that it's taken to them has just been catastrophic.
Yeah. Vishal, you got a point?
Yeah. I do work on the shopper side at Shipt, which is the gig side or the supply side at Shipt. And there is absolutely a crunch for finding good gig quality workers who will be loyal to your platform. For one thing, a lot of these platforms are now very commoditized. It is easy for these workers to multi-home is what we call it, work at an Uber, drive for Uber versus, shop for Instacart, simultaneously shop for Shipt. Wherever they are getting the demand, they will be online in all these apps. So that is absolutely happening. And the other, the 1-2 punch on this is that inflation, unfortunately, is an all-time high. So when the demand side is kind of feeling it, right, the customers are feeling it, the supply side or the shoppers or the drivers are feeling it as well. So you have to sort of figure out a way to manage your unit economics without overcharging the demand, but you want to make sure that you are paying your customers, paying your supply side, the drivers and shoppers enough so that they are attractive to come and work for your platform. As Tom mentioned, regulations like AB5, etc., also make it complicated. These are hyper localized businesses generally, and it makes it complicated to operate in certain geos and markets as well. So that is true that there is a supply crunch in the industry in general. It's very difficult to retain, to acquire and retain supply, generally speaking. Pricing is a lever, obviously. But the other side, I want to also cover that the industry is strong. The numbers that we look at when we look at, where is the industry going, even only for the delivery space, for example, on-demand delivery space, that is expected to grow about 13 to 14% year over year. So, double-digit growth is not insignificant given where the industry already is. So one part is strong. The other part, I think, especially as we come out of the pandemic and, things are starting to settle down with economy, etc., it will take some time for us to settle down.
Very good. Aaron?
Yeah, so on this one, I can definitely talk about the demand of the picture, not the supply, because that's where we have partners like Shipt and Instacart and others whom we are working with. But when I talk of demand, I see that there is going to be an organic growth as we move forward. I understand there was a COVID, uptick, and now there's a correction. But as we move forward, we see there's a growing trend of Gen Z that will be the family unit 10 years from now. And the current family unit will have another set of demands. So the convenience offerings that the Gen Z clientele is using at this point will move in that space of families using those convenience offerings. So there is going to be an organic shift in demand. And supply also is motivated with what Kashyap said, where Gen Z wants flexibility. So they will go for gig work in the future. So it's kind of going to meet at a point. But in the near future, yes, there is an imbalance. I agree.
Very good. We've got about 8 minutes left, so let's make good use of those minutes. Instant commerce is in the news as a trend, with new upstarts promising 20-minute deliveries for certain products. How do you see this affecting the last mile delivery? Are there unreasonable expectations, Tom?
Absolutely. So that's kind of the issue, right? I'm big and bulky. I can't deliver a 500-pound treadmill in 20 minutes. Unfortunately, Amazon has made it to where that's what customers expect. So, and I'm guilty of it too. When we had our pre-talk, I told you the story, we're not an Amazon effect family. We're a Pizza Hut effect family. So we order a pizza from Pizza Hut. It's 20 minutes away. My kids are on their phone tracking it as if it's an Olympic sport. So let alone if you drop $5,000 on a treadmill, that's shipping out of Logan, Utah, out to Romulus, Michigan. So it's one of those expectations. And that goes right back to the Amazon question, which was number one, which is what effect does that have? Customers now expect their treadmills in 5 days. So my KPIs now to my carriers are 5 days from on dock. And I will tell you the Wizmo questions that my customers call in with every day past that 5 days is intolerable. The cost just to deal with Wizmo's questions, it has to be fixed. And one of the ways to fix that is proper tech. And as a sourcing manager for iFIT, I'm continuously looking for those opportunities to provide that data to my customers so they don't need to call. They have it in their fingertips.
Aaron, can you offer some engineering perspective on this?
Oh, definitely. So I look at this problem from an engineering enablement to a business. And I think the biggest thing a business should look at is not what's happening around, but what is your own problem statement. Identifying that problem statement for instance, we do sushi delivery. That's a very different modality compared to delivering what treadmills would take, right? So your business needs to be identified. You need to find your thin slice of a solution because e-commerce is a vast space. It's not one size fits all. So each business should focus on identifying their problem, and finding the solution based on that becomes much easier and more impactful from engineering standpoint. So that's what I would say. Yeah.
Very good. Vishal, what's your take?
Yeah, I would quickly add that building upon what Tom and Aaron just said, you absolutely have to identify what are the business use cases you're supporting for your customer. I'll just leave it at a high level that it is easier to get a ride when the ride is it's sort of a homogeneous unit of work that you're doing. You can get an SUV, you can get a sedan, you can get a large car, you can get whatever you want, but it's just ordering a ride. And that you can build the logistics to get that down to a few minutes, but expecting that to get milk, to get eggs, to get a treadmill, to get a spin bike, like all of that within 15 minutes is probably unreasonable, because building that kind of last mile logistics in a situation where you can operate profitably with good supply, meeting customer expectations all the time is a very challenging problem. So yes, depending on where you are, what use case you have, you need to focus on, whether you should set those customer expectations or not.
Very good. Got about 4 minutes left. Time flies by, doesn't it? Which is the most underrated technology advancement that you were rooting for in 2023? Where would you like to see the most progress this year? Tom, something about observability tools. What do you think?
That's exactly where I was going here, Chris, is that visibility right now I'm looking for it. I've gone through, had demos with a dozen different companies, and each of them is lacking something. So I believe that we need to focus more from a tech standpoint on a customer experience and what that customer experience is. At the end of the day, no matter what kind of back we build for our industry, if we don't have that customer and we don't have that 5-star NPS rating from that customer, it doesn't matter what the backbone is that actually got the merchandise to that member. So I think there needs to be a sharp focus on how the customer experience ultimately is going to end up.
Yeah, the customer has to like and trust the retailer, don't they?
Correct.
Aaron, what's your take on this about visual clarity for all aspects?
I totally think that last mile space in this specific aspect has a lot of growth still left, a lot of maturity left. I believe we need something like digital twins that we have in other sectors, which are very detailed, like from end to end of where the product starts to where it is and when it's reaching the customer at scale. Those are the tech stacks that I would really root for, because I think that brings a lot of power to your business stakeholders, to your engineering, and also to your operations, specifically people on the ground who are struggling every day to figure out, okay, where is this product in this whole chaos of 300 orders I'm tracking at this point, right? So that's where I think the focus will be going down, because I think it's a need. Yeah.
Good. Vishal?
Yeah, I think I'll steal a line from Aaron from an earlier conversation. The amount of operational visibility and excellence that you have in operating something like, for example, an oil rig, or let's say you were trying to land a rover on the moon, for example, a rover on Mars. The amount of visibility that you have, that is the sort of the visibility and transparency into where your logistics are, which a customer is now starting to expect in your app, on your phone, in your app, that level of visibility. So yes, absolutely, because of customer expectations, because the Amazons have kind of pushed the envelope to that end. Now everybody's sort of expected to catch up and bring the industry along. But that is where the next line of innovation is definitely going to happen.
Thank you for that. We got 1 minute left. Let's see if we can write a headline, each of us, on this one. Journalist, that's what I have to do every day. So, okay, it's not that hard. We've got over 1,500 logistics team tech builders and executives joining us here at the Logistics and Tech Summit today. The bulk of them are working on last mile delivery. What's your advice for them regarding processes and tools or technology needed to optimize the last mile delivery? You got to really cut this down. Tom, go for it.
Yeah, transparency and your relationship with your carriers. It's my mantra. The customer experience, pricing, all of it comes down to your relationship with your carrier and your transparency with your carrier. Those are my final words there, Chris.
Very good. A+. Okay, Aaron, what's yours?
I would again take the engineering context. For solutions that we are building, I would go with the think again strategies laid out by Adam Grant. It's so young right now, this whole industry, that we need to constantly question what we built and keep on iterating, because your problem is evolving, your landscape is evolving. So that's what I would say. If you are in this industry, you need to keep on questioning what you just did yesterday. That's how we would proceed. Yeah.
Vishal, you got the last word.
Thank you. I would say that, take inspiration from the big players out there. Definitely. If they are doing it, there is some rhyme and reason to why they are actually going after these problems. So yes, the industry is evolving, the problem spaces are evolving. So first of all, look at them. Don't be afraid to, use, for example, off-the-shelf solutions like HyperTrack, or if you feel you are at a massive scale, don't be afraid to go after problems like, building pricing, etc. Right? So build versus buy if you want to. But absolutely, that's where the industry is going, and you should be sort of focused on finding those gems as the industry is evolving. How do you actually find those problems? So
thank you all very much, Tom and Aaron and Vishal, for your excellent insight and edited down very well. Thank you very much. Cash Up, it's all yours.
Yes, I think we've got some questions for the panel that we have some time to take on. Gaurav?
Yeah, we do. We have a question from Feedloop attendees. With the shift to flex workers, have companies within logistics research, tech staffing solutions, and we have about 40 plus tech staffing companies here online, like Instawork, like Wanalo, like Workwhile, like Traba, like Jobbox. So have you looked at them? That's the first question. And the second question is, what are the challenges in using the flex work, hiring flex workers, either working with the flex work companies or otherwise?
Tom, do you want to maybe take that and then?
Yes. Flex working, it's tough. It's tough. I demand a muscle memory to assemble one of my treadmills. I've sourced several companies that have like an open broker market to where you throw out a load and then someone bids on the load, and you can really reduce prices in that type model, which C-suite's going to love. However, you don't have the consistency that you would have if you have Bob and Tim every day delivering and assembling 3 treadmills. So from a flex worker place, it is something that we utilize, but again, it's something that we try not to. We try to develop the talent, try to develop the consistency time and time again.
Yeah, and I can quickly add to that. I can speak for Shipt that we haven't built this technology. We are still buying. So, we are leveraging third-party partners, third-party providers to help us onboard, to help us train, to help us, build our supply pool, to help with once we do our own customer acquisition, but then once the customers are acquired, actually getting them through the onboarding funnel, essentially, right? Getting them into the system, getting their background verifications done, etc. For that, we absolutely rely on third-party companies, third-party solutions. And I would bet that a lot of companies are basically, even the Ubers and the Lyfts, for example, depending on use cases, right? They are depending on the business line. If they're looking into going into a new business area, they are doing build versus buy as well. So.
Wonderful. I'm going to give you one last question. We have another minute. Question is, what keeps you up at night with respect to your logistics operations, and how are you planning the logistic tech to help? And with that, I'm going to jump off and let you guys answer that, and let Kashyap wrap up after I'm done.
So humorously, it's all the customers that have found my cell phone number texting me about where their order is. So that's what keeps me up at night. But again, it goes to the visibility that I'm really looking forward for logistics tech to really create. There are several really valuable tools out there, but one yet that I have to see that kind of checks every box. So that's kind of what I'm seeing, and what would get me to sleep at night is knowing that all my customers know where their product is every given point in the day.
Coming from the engineering side of the question, I would say that what would keep me up at night is the same concept from the other side, where I really need to understand how tech is interacting with humans, because back in the day, humans were the primary source of this interaction with your customer. Now we have tech in the middle of it. So there's this sensitive balance where you need to have tooling to save the day in lots of situations, because it's not a mature landscape and people are involved, so things can happen. So I think that's what keeps me up at night. Do I have the tooling to save like a massive problem that comes in my way in tech of the logistics? Yeah.
Yeah. And finally, I'll end with the product perspective. It's always interesting to see where the puck is going, where the competitors, where the different major players in the company are pushing customer expectations. And then what do our customers need? What do they want? And are we building the right solutions for the customers for these different use cases? So, we sort of, the 3 sides, if you will, all of us kind of focus on the same core problem, but we look at it from different sides. That's what keeps me up at night.
Wonderful. Thanks a lot, Vishal. And thank you, everybody. I'm going to jump off now. We're going to end this call and on to the FlexWork case study with Jobbox. If you want to learn the recipe of how they're growing so fast, be sure to join us for the next session. Thank you, everybody, for joining us, and see you at the Jobbox case study.
Thank you, everyone.
Track.
Thank you, guys.
See you on the other side.
Vishal. Thank you.
See you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.